Good evening and welcome to Sports Overtime here in our digital studio where we record Southeast Sports Plus each and every day. We previewed week 5 of the college football season. Here's the best of.
And there will be a huge matchup this week between a battle of unbeatens in Ole Miss and LSU going head-to-head. And every time we talk about the LSU Tigers, we, of course, have to try to get with our great crew in Baton Rouge. Several wonderful reporters down there. None better than our girl, Chessa Boucher, back on Southeast Sports Plus. Happy Tuesday, ma'am. How you doing?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Oh, we're hanging in. We are hanging in. There's a lot to get to. And before we even talk about football, because honestly, at this point, it's irrelevant. It's a top 25 matchup, top whatever it is their record are matchup, undefeated. I mean, all of the storylines. But there's nothing bigger than Lane Kiffin's daughter hard launching a relationship with LSU's star defensive player, Whit Weeks. This happens last night, game week. Chessa, explain what on earth took place in terms of in your sports department when this news broke last night.
It was absolutely wild. We were like, is this for real? Is this, at first we were like, maybe she's just like punking us and like trying to play it cool and like play with her dad Lane. But then we were like, oh no, this is the real deal. Like they're together, hard launch. And I even like the comments under with Whit Weeks being like, oh, that's a cool guy or a nice guy or something. And then she was like, thanks, bud. Like they're flirting there. And then he posted it on his story and we were like, oh, this is for real. This is no joke.
Just a few weeks ago, we had you on and the world was burning over there over the rumors that Garrett Nussmeier was hurt. It was like, oh, he's out for the year. And then you and Brian had that great moment. Everybody calmed down. And it seems like now there might be a somewhat legitimate injury. What's the latest on Nussmeier and maybe how that injury might affect his play this weekend?
Yeah, Brian Kelly brought it up actually not this past Monday before leading into last week's ballgame against Southeastern and said that Garrett Nussmeier was dealing with a torso injury. And everybody's like, oh, that's the reason why he hasn't looked the part and this or that. And then we found out this happened in fall camp. So he's been battling this injury. This is nothing new, but Brian Kelly said he's going to play against Southeastern. He's kind of over the injury. He's on the downside of this injury. So it's going to be a different play from Garrett Nussmeier because he is pretty much healthy. And he said that the only time he's going to actually be able to get back to 100%, that's after this week at Ole Miss when they get the bye week. I think what we saw from Garrett Nussmeier against Southeastern, I think it had to do more with play calling and what they were really trying to do with the offense. I think they were being a little bit conservative, being vanilla, and didn't want to put too much out there, especially when you're going to play against a Lane Kiffin and Oxford where you need to maybe save some of those bullets in the gun per se. And so I think what we saw from him against Southeastern almost had a perfect ball game, threw for over 200-something yards. Looked the part. He looked like the Garrett Nussmeier that we saw from last year. So I think it was a combination of this offensive line clicking, playing as one, getting it out to the weapons and letting them do what they do. And I think that's what we saw, and I think that'll be what they kind of use going forward, especially there in Oxford.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. A 2:30 kickoff there in Oxford. 13th ranked Ole Miss and LSU now down to number 4 by no fault of their own, just a matter of kind of how the AP pollers are doing things, which, there's a lot of questionable situations with that we talked about earlier on the show. We did hear from LSU head coach Brian Kelly about this matchup as it relates to what they're going to need to get done and maybe where they're a little bit short going into this ballgame. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about, even the Clemson game, right, Jacques? You feel better about those games because you're taking a defense that can stand up against the environment, going on the road and all those things. And we're a much more cohesive group. The roster's better. The players are better. Those were good, tough kids that played hard for us. But, we're a little short in some areas. So we bring a defense with us. Now we'll have to match, obviously, I don't know about all the points, but we got to score too. Like we talked about last week. I mean, we can't, be scoring a touchdown or 10 points. That's not going to cut it in the SEC. So continue to play at the level that we have defensively and then bring your offense up to the level that it needs to be to win games in the SEC.
Back here, further east, I should say. We're, of course, in the state of Alabama. All eyes going into this big game, and quarterback's really a big part of this discussion, Gerhard. We heard from Kirby Smart about Ty Simpson's development. Let's take a listen to what he had to say this week as the Bulldogs gear up for this big one against the Tide.
Well, I mean, Ty's different than Milroe. You said it, so there's a difference in that, but he's a really good athlete. Like, he's a tremendous athlete. He played in games last year, and you watch all the snaps he took, and he has 60, 70, 80-yard runs that are, running down the field, outrunning good defenses. So he's a talented player. I would say he's probably the hottest quarterback right now in all of college football. His 2 last outings, I don't know that I've seen an incompletion. Like, the ball does not hit the ground. He's been accurate. He's been quick with the ball. They're really hard to defend because of their skill. They've got tremendous skilled receivers, backs, tight ends, but you got to have a trigger guy that can get those guys the ball, and they do. And he's seeing the field. I didn't realize, in the Florida State game, it was as messy and sloppy as the weather was at times. Like we were playing a game during that time, so I had no idea until last week. You go watch, and you're like, oh, okay, it was a rainy, sloppy game. In the other games he's played, there's been no sloppiness. I mean, he's accurate, he's quick with the ball, he's a good decision maker, and has made some elite throws. So they're clicking right now offensively for sure.
So a lot to unpack there from Kirby Smart, the head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, as they gear up for this game against Alabama. And there's no question that when you look at strictly the numbers, what Ty Simpson has been able to do in Alabama's last 2 wins, most recently against Wisconsin, you still have to consider who it is that Alabama was playing in those games. Yeah. However, like we've joked on this show previously, it's difficult to go perfect, like Ty Simpson did a couple of weeks ago, and then to go near perfect against a P4 opponent is pretty impressive.
Yeah, if you go to practices, 7-on-7 practices, where you're practicing against the air, it's hard to go 17 of 17 for a lot of these quarterbacks. You'll have a drop here and there. So it says something about both things. And Kirby Smart hit it on the head. It says what the trigger man is doing, being able to get the ball out there, but also his receivers catching the football. Simone, in his last 2 games, he has 5 incompletions and 7 touchdowns.
That's insane.
It's insane.
That is insane.
And so if it was just one game in a vacuum, that'd be one thing, but he's carried it over. You mentioned it. It's not 2 great defenses, but if he could do it against the Kirby Smart defense, not necessarily that level of production, but just carry that confidence and that execution into it, I think he gives Bama a really good shot.
Yeah, there's no question that this is going to be Alabama's first true, not their first true test in terms of competition, but their first true, a good just bar of expectation. What is Alabama really going to be? Of course, the Florida State loss, I have to disagree with what Kirby Smart said, but then we have to keep in mind that Kirby Smart is going to talk like the coach who's gearing up to play this team this week, because that's the same thing he's got to be telling his guys, which is, hey, take them seriously. Hey, this Florida State game, it was sloppy because the weather was sloppy. No, it was probably sloppy because there was no effort from the Tide for most of the game. Yeah. And guys like Kane Womack, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, these coaches say the same thing. So a fire had to be lit, and it did, and it was. Will that go ahead and change things going into the SEC slate as we really get into the nitty-gritty? Because right now, nothing has really been lost with that Florida State loss. And by the way, the Seminoles might be good. That might be one thing.
I'm going to take the might be off the table. I think they're a good football team, maybe the best in the ACC.
Yeah, no question. And so I think that is going to be, there's no question it's gut check time for Alabama. Just a couple of years ago, this was a top 5 matchup. These 2 teams have gone back and forth in terms of national championships for a good while now. A little bit of a different situation as it pertains to being the 2 dominant teams in college football, because the landscape has changed, but the amount of eyes and the amount of attention and what can be won by winning this game there's no lackluster there. This is a huge opportunity for both teams.
Yeah, and I think even though LSU is the top team in the standings as it relates to SEC teams, these 2 are still considered the cream of the crop because these 2 have the championship pedigree and the history, as you mentioned. Now, there are 2 new coaches. There are 2 new quarterbacks in this football game, not from last year, but from previous years, obviously. And so I think with that, the names on the helmets and the jerseys still really matter as far as what they bring to this football team, this football game overall.
Sure.
But in my opinion, yes, I think this game will still go a long way to determining who comes out of the SEC, just like it will this year, just like it did in previous years when there were the East and West divisions.
Yeah. The annual opponents for the next 4 years was early released by Chris Loeb on 3. And Roger, when you take a look at these teams for Texas, Texas A&M, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, the 3 teams that the Longhorns will have on their slate. And you can see A&M's on this one as well, LSU, Missouri, and Texas. Your thoughts?
It was obvious. I mean, I would contend, and not because Texas is any different than any other school, but these are the most obvious 3 games compared to another school where there may be 2 obvious and one you can tell me why, and then I could say, well, what about this school? And you could say, well, yeah, maybe. So these were the obvious ones. Obviously, Oklahoma, that was going to be their one if they didn't go to the 9 game. And then Texas A&M, No-brainer there in Arkansas, the old Southwest Conference. And it's funny because I'm looking at these other Oklahomas, for instance,
pull that back
and
up,
Texas
Patrick.
A&M.
Yep.
You got me?
Yeah, well, we still got you. We want to pull the graphic back up. Yeah, we got you, Roger.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was going to say A&M has Missouri on there. If you show OU, they've got Missouri. So again, Missouri's one of those like, okay, what are we? We're everybody's permanent
It's kind of like Vanderbilt
team
too.
that doesn't really make a great deal of logic other than they got to plug 3 in. So that's why I'm saying for Texas it was a no-brainer just because of history and because of geography.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because I think that if you speak to some folks throughout the SEC, whether it be it fans or be it reporters, they would also have this argument of like, hey, this is obvious. This is who we should go with. These are in that. And that's not really how it played out. And so I'm not sure that anyone else who would say this is the obvious choice really got the obvious. But in terms of all the points that you just made, Texas certainly was that. I do think that it plays well that, if you look at terms of competition in current day, it seems like everyone got, hey, pretty hefty, difficult 2 opponents. And then that third one was, hey, we're not going to give you, like, if you just look at Alabama, for instance, Patrick, you can pull up Alabama, maybe pull up Auburn. There's 2 obvious choices. And then there's Alabama could make an argument for LSU, certainly, but they're going to go with a geographic kind of tie-in here. Those are the 2 closest SEC schools. They're going to bring in Mississippi State, who just happens to maybe not be this super high-caliber opponent. So if you're looking at a Texas schedule, in Arkansas right now, obviously just coming off of the loss there, not exactly the highest caliber opponent as well. So there's going to be 4 years from now, will they reevaluate those opponents for Texas, or they're going to reevaluate it for everybody else? Will they make a change is another question, and I guess it'll be TBD on that one there, Roger.
Yeah, and for instance, Arkansas, they played that neutral site game at AT&T Stadium for so long with A&M, so that was a pretty good rivalry. And I think people might be a little bit surprised. But again, you can only do so much. And I look at Missouri. So Missouri's got Arkansas, they got Oklahoma and A&M. What do they have? They have all 3 of Texas's common opponents on their schedule for their common opponents. So yeah, that's my point, is that you can point to a couple for most of them that are obvious. And for Texas, it was just so obvious. Now you could have said, okay, what about LSU instead of Arkansas? If you're talking geography, yeah, that's about the same distance, but there's no history between Texas and LSU football like there is between Texas and Arkansas football. I'm not sure if they would say, well, Arkansas is a little bit down, so we're going to let Texas off the hook and give them. I think that just went into, okay, Texas, easy, plug and play. Let's move on to some other ones.
Stay with us here on Sports Overtime. And of course, you can watch our show Monday through Friday on your free WKRG Plus app. Catch us on your Roku, Apple TV, or Fire TV device.
It has taken 54 minutes, 14 FaceTimes, 3 text messages from my phone, another 30 from Patrick. But without further ado, we have the one and only Jim Dunaway joining the show here on South.
Contractually, I said I would only be in the first hour. I didn't want to do hour 2. If I couldn't be in hour 1, I didn't want to be in the show. So.
And we will make sure that Patrick gets the Venmo sent over right at the end of this program. Jim Dunaway, a friend of the show. And when we say friend of the show, I say friend of the show often when I introduce everybody. This guy, I mean it. I mean it. Not that I don't mean it for others, but no question, it's best friend of the show. This one. JD, good afternoon. At this point, we appreciate all of your efforts in joining us today. And of course, you do a great job there in Birmingham, have for a long time. It's been a very busy last few hours, especially around the SEC. How's your Monday going?
It's going great. Now that I'm, as a lifetime Mac user, I'm signed in. I'm ready to go, so I'm excited. It's been fun. I first heard about the plan here at Auburn, ironically, back during Alabama-Wisconsin football weekend, where somebody told me that, hey, Bruce is going to step down likely before the season starts. And I was like, oh, I thought we were past that. And they were like, no, it's likely going to happen if they can get the deal worked out for Steven. So it's all worked out. And boy, if I'm an Auburn basketball fan, guys, I'm fired up about this. I mean, you want Bruce to keep going, but you knew, and I'm sure you guys have already discussed this, you knew eventually the end was closer. It was coming. Everybody ages out at some point. And so what's the transition? And the coaching staff that's been there, between Mike and Steven, the offensive and defensive coordinators, they've been doing a lot of work prepping for this time over the last few years. and Bruce has been turning over more and more of the day-to-day operations to those two guys, Bergmaster and Pearl, and this is just a perfect transition, I think, if you're an Auburn fan, to want to keep what has been going on the last 11 years to keep it moving forward.
When you think about Bruce Pearl, not just at Auburn, but also in Tennessee, and then in the gap years when he was in television, it just felt like at every turn he's just been killing it. He's just been doing such a great job in general. When you think about just what he means to the SEC, what he has meant to college basketball, how will you remember him before we speculate about his future?
I would say he's just a really good individual.
Yeah.
I would start with that. He lost his coaching gig at Tennessee for what seems like an asinine rule nowadays for
really.
a barbecue. And he had a really good program going there. And, you know, he accepted what happened to him at Tennessee. And he accepted responsibility. And I really got to know Bruce during that time when he was off, because I was doing radio here in Birmingham at the time. And he reached out to Ryan Brown and myself, and he's like, listen, I don't want to charge you guys, and I don't want to give too much information, but he says, I want to come on weekly with you guys. I want Commissioner Mike Slive to know that I'm willing to work to get back in good graces with everyone in the Southeastern Conference. And I think he knew that a job would be opening up either in Tuscaloosa or at Auburn at some point. So being on the airwaves in Birmingham was a good thing, but more specifically, he knew the SEC commissioner listened to our show and on his way into work, and he knew that when he was on the show that Bruce Pearl, the guy who wanted another chance, would still be at the front of mind. And he took that opportunity when he had it to take the Auburn job, and he hit the ground running. Guys, I will promise there is no doubt in my mind, Auburn basketball was the absolute worst job in the SEC, and it was one of the worst jobs in college basketball, considering everything around it. They played in a mausoleum with no fan base that would go to the games, especially midweek, and he turned it into one of the, if not the toughest tickets in college basketball. He went to 2 Final Fours, and he did that. He did that at a quote-unquote football school. Yeah. He did an amazing job, and in all of sports, not just college basketball, not just in the SEC. You look at what he ended up doing with Auburn and where their place, their real estate, Baltic Avenue of monopoly of sports, and turned them into what Auburn basketball is now. I mean, you can go to any Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, NBA, college football. It is right up there with what Frank Beamer did to Virginia Tech to turn Auburn basketball into what it is now.
Stay with us here on Sports Overtime. And, of course, you can watch our show Monday through Friday on your free WKRG Plus app. Catch us on your Roku, Apple TV, or Fire TV device. I saw where a Whit Muschamp came in the game as the backup quarterback. Number one, what's his prognosis about maybe being able to be that next guy? I mean, you mentioned Clark Lee trying to replicate this. Is that somebody that could rely on, lean on, that's got a name in the SEC?
I'm not going to pretend to know that at all. Okay? All right. All I know is this: that Diego wanted the backup. I forget his name now. He had to keep him away from the girls in the off season because he was too distracted. And that's why Diego said he shaved his hair in the off season, was to keep the girls away so that his backup could actually concentrate on what he was doing.
Yeah. Okay, before you go, Corey, you got to tell me about the hook that is behind you that is on the wall, because when I see it, all I think about is Moana, and I just want to know if is it really? Is it Maui's? Is it Maui's hook?
That's Maui. It's Maui's hook. It might still work. Hold on a second.
Please, yes. This is
where I'll need a refresher here.
This is absolutely.
Oh yeah, it works.
This is the greatest moment that we have had on Southeast Sports Plus, and we've had at least 6 head coaches live, and I'm just telling you right now, right here, Maui's hook, and that knowing, I'm so impressed.
Yeah, she loved Maui. I loved Maui. I mean, we both loved Moana, and she's 12 now, so we were clearing stuff out of the house, And this was somehow going into the goodwill bin, and I said, no way. And I took it to work and I hung it on the wall.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Sports Overtime tonight. Remember, you can watch Southeast Sports Plus on WKRG Plus, the free app, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. You can catch it on your Roku, Apple TV, or Fire TV device. Good night.